Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Kelly and I'm the Director for Community Economic Development here at the Partnership. Welcome to today's webinar, which is another in our CCAP series, this one being on the certification exam. Our speaker today will be Jim Lopresti. I'll now turn it over to Jim.
Thank you, Kevin, very much, and welcome everyone to today's webinar on the CCAP exam. I note that when I look at the list of attendees, most of you attending are persons who have qualified to take the exam this year. So some of the information I will be sharing about the exam.
Kevin was loud and clear. We cannot hear you.
Can we try that again? Hello, can I be heard now?
I think we've got you. Try and speak up. We've got a couple of people who are saying they're having a hard time hearing you. They can hear us.
Okay. I will change my volume on my...
That's perfect.
Much better.
All right. Is that working better now?
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Janice Staku just said that's better, so I know it is. Gina Martin, you can hear now? Okay. Okay, let's see how we're doing. Again, welcome to our webinar on the CCAP exam. And I was mentioning that most of the persons who are participating in this webinar are persons who have qualified to take the exam. But some of you who have registered are new to the CCAP process and to the CCAP exam. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes at the beginning to see that we're all on the same page and have a common understanding about the place of the CCAP exam in the certification process. So that's our first agenda item. Next, we're going to learn about the use of the website for two opportunities. One is accessing the practice exam, which all persons who qualify to take the exam are expected to access and to use before taking the actual CCAP exam. And that will be the next item that we will take a look at, what's different between accessing the practice exam and how the CCAP exam on the website works as well. And then the third item will be some very specific practical details about preparing for and engaging in the process for the CCAP exam. That's our agenda, and I will be watching the chat window, and I have certain points that I consider breakpoints in the presentation that I will look to see if you have any questions. And then I will also ask Charity if she sees other items that I may have missed. At the end of the presentation, I will also be available for responding to any questions you might have by email message, and I will give that email address on the last slide of today's PowerPoint presentation. Let's get started. Candidates are eligible to take the examination when they've accumulated 700 points on their candidate data form and executive skills portfolio combined, and when they've achieved a minimum score of 300 points on each. It's administered in June each year. You can see this year's date is on the 19th of June. I will talk a little bit later about the locations for the exam. It's composed of questions that have been written and tested by community action leaders in the field. These are not exam questions written by someone that's not involved in doing community action day to day. The exam questions are mostly objective. There are a certain few essay questions in which, in most instances, the candidate is asked to apply management and leadership skills to make choices at various concerns that might be presented in the essay and ask how would you resolve those concerns or take advantage of certain new opportunities, etc. But the point is, it's more based on an application of knowledge than it is on memorization of facts. This is a little different this year. It's given in 2 sections. In previous years, it's totaled only 4 hours, and this year, we've added an additional quarter hour. They asked to take the full time. We're offering a little bit more time to complete. The exam is administered using the Community Action Academy's online web-based platform, but only at approved proctored sites around the country. And the candidates who are qualified to take the exam are going to be required to actually have a practice exam that they will access on the laptop computer that they will bring with them to use on exam day at the site they have chosen. I will say some more about that a little bit later. The exam is scored by the Certification Commission late June, the week after the exam is completed, and candidates usually learn about how they performed on the Friday after that, the Friday after the exam week. That would be June 28th, I believe. The exam is based on the 5 sections of the Body of Knowledge outline, all 5 of them. And they are listed and should be familiar to most, if not all of you. The Body of Knowledge outline, which is available on the partnership website on the CCAP page, focuses on the history of community action, on vision and values of community action, traditional management skills, leadership skills, theories of poverty, and strategies to address poverty. There are questions, objective questions, on each of those sections of the Body of Knowledge outline. Excuse me, I'm just on the other side of a bad cold. Section 2 of the exam is a series of essay questions, which includes questions based on a case study called New Hope. That case study, which describes a fictional community action agency, is sent to all candidates in advance, a few months in advance of the exam. I will say a little bit more about that in a few moments. The passing score for the exam is 700 out of a possible 1,000 points. It'll be to a 70% score. High school and college classes. Excuse me. Now, sites are chosen as much as possible to correlate to the geographic location of candidates once we know who has qualified by calculation of their candidate data form and executive skills portfolio. That process of identifying sites and locating proctors and setting up, making sure that the sites are able to host an exam that is web-based, is pretty close to being finished. I hope to have the process finished so that I can send out notices to all the candidates by the end of the day on Friday, or certainly over the weekend. Know from the beginning that one of the sites is always CAP Law Conference, when the CAP Law Conference overlaps, as it does this year, with the date for the CCAP exam. So if you are attending CAP Law, you will have the opportunity to take, that will be one of the choices that you'll be able to make. So then on probably Friday or over the weekend, you will get a message that will include the link to, I'm so sorry. Well, it just doesn't keep interrupting us. You will have a link to a SurveyMonkey page in which you will make your choices for your location. And on that same email, you will have a copy of the exam regulations. that are outlining in more detail how the exam is administered. So that will occur, again, I say for those who have qualified, on Friday or over the weekend. I'm so sorry. Now, in preparation for the examination, a study guide has been posted on the partnership website. The guide contains the sources that have been used for all the questions on the examination and is set up to correlate to the body of knowledge outline. It has been posted on the website under the CCAP page. Scroll to the bottom of the CCAP page and you'll see the specific box that links you to the study guide and certain attachments. There are about 22, I believe, this year, attached documents. These contain study guide references you to, and many of the sources, not all of them, are included in those attachments. And study guide points you to exactly from that have been written in the section of the body of knowledge outline that is referenced on the exam. On the next page, this slide here, you see what that study guide looks like. For example, for Section A, the history of community action. It shows you under body of knowledge, subsetting 1, 2 sources, and the that have been used on this year's exam in that section. Okay, that's an overview of how the exam is formulated. Now I want to talk about how you actually access first the practice examination itself. But before doing that, I know for some of you this is all repetition. For others of you, this is brand new information. I don't see anything in the chat box at this point. Am I missing anything, Charity, in the chat box?
No, we don't see anything there.
Oh, sorry, Kevin.
No, it's okay.
Back off.
It's usually me. Kevin just saw first.
All right, let's take a look. This thing is done. The page you see on the top of this slide, yes, colon, backslash, community action partnership. There's no W entered that way. So again, in the message, you'll see that again.
Hi, Jim.
Yes.
Hi, Jim. It's Charity. It sounds like your mic's going in and out just a little bit. Can you hold that mic closer to you, please?
I'll do it again.
Thank you.
Okay. When you open that page, it says, is this your first time here? And asks you to set up a user account. Please, when you access this setup, you need to set up your own account. So please do not attempt to set up an account of your own. You have already logged in to this site by the Community Action Academy. It's the same site. If you have your logon that you used to log on to this site before, it will be active for you to use for CCAP. As I before today, there was only 3 persons who were candidates. who are taking the exam who have done that already. So you will have of the site, okay? And what you enter, and when you, the ID, you already have one of your own by participating in the Community Action Academy. The ID that you will be given was the one you saw in my email telling you to take the exam. Digit code. That's in the back office and by the commission. Names of candidates are not used to preserve as many as possible. Only that 5-digit code is used. All right, that's your ID. And that ID, same 5-digit code, has been set as your password to enter the site. Think about first of the actual exam. If you have correctly entered your information, you will see the hand corner of the screen. If another name appears, that means you might have inverted a digit and put someone else's code in. So skip and I'll show you on the next page. On that drop access by the typical place you would on a website. Log out immediately and then re-enter with the correct. That is especially access to CCAP exam. If you CCAP exam past this point, the person you will have will into it. That's why it is crucial. Once you so then when you will see on the top of your screen and when the CCAP practice, you will see CCAP practice exam on the top of the screen, and then just under it where you will click to open the page where the practice is located. That practice exam is a series of 11 questions. I want you to see now what happens when you click on CCAP practice next to that little green page in the middle of your screen. This is what comes up. There are two ways that you can navigate through. One is to click on the page number outlined in the quiz navigation box. You see a copy of that quiz navigation box on the right hand side of this slide. On the right hand side as you scroll through all the questions. Or you can click also on the next page button. That's the bottom right of each question page. And I'm going to show you what the page looks like. The outline, that tells you what question number you are answering. And that lets you know what question you're on. And again, and use the question. Exam is timed to stimulate. That time clock is only put on the practice exam to show you what that will look like when you take the actual CCAP exam, because the timing on the CCAP exam is active. Okay? So let's take a look at what happens when you open an exam question. Here is actual number question 1 from the practice exam, except for the red into it. That's exactly what question number 1 looks like. Which American president signed the Economic Opportunity Act? Notice some things that you will see both here on the practice exam, on the CCAP. You will see first the point value for each question on the upper right-hand panel. How many points? Second, you will see that you can flag a question to return to it later at any time. Of course, you're not going to see the one that goes up on my. This is what an essay question looks like. And the CCAP exam itself. The question or the case is presented to you at the top of the screen in blue, and you will see a white like an MS Word. It does include editing options in the bar on top, as you can see, such as bulleting, etc., or using bold, or you use those if you wish, but please don't be at all concerned about using those editing functions. When you are on the last page of the exam, there's a button on the bottom right hand of the page that says Finish Attempt. When you click on that button, your attempt that answered and answer saved on the right hand list. I'm going to show you that page next. So when you've clicked on Finish Attempt, this is what you will see. Those questions you will have the bottom half of the icon for that question number filled in gray. You'll see, if you have an image of what that looks like, under Status that shows in the middle of the page, and the quiz navigation icon, which will show you that triangle under the number. If you have that you have not answered yet, or intend to go back to, it looks like a little bookmark on the top right-hand corner. If there's nothing on a page, you haven't answered it yet. You can return skipped or didn't complete or flagged and want to go back to. And then when you're finished, once again, of the last page again, finish. And then you will be your intent to submit all and finish.
Jim, we've got a couple of really great questions. The first one is, does it tell you right away if you've got the question right or wrong?
No, it does not.
Okay. Also, it does not. I see.
The commission examines the whole outcome of the whole test and has the option when it consider any questions that be scoring expectations. I don't want to get into what that statistical fact is, but that means that the commission has final choice on score. So it does not tell the candidate to score. Additionally, the candidates' essays have to be manually scored by the commissioners, and they're read, so you don't see the score.
Good to know. People also want to know if they will get partial credit. So especially on those essays. So if they get maybe some, will they get some points, or is it all or nothing?
All right, let's talk about both the objective and the essays. On certain objective questions, like what are called multiple choice, where you might have a list of 5 choices which may or may not be correct. If you get 2 out of the 3 that are supposed to be chosen, you'll get partial credit, for example. And you will get a penalty if you choose one that is not correct. So it's not all 0 or 20 points or something like that. With the essay in a jurying process, similar to the way the executive skills portfolios are read. So the judgment is made there, and the score can range from 0 up to the maximum number of points that essay question is valued. Most essay questions are valued at about 60 points out of the total of 1,000 of all points. So you do not have to be concerned about an all or nothing score on essays. They are jury scored. Okay.
Okay, Jim, one other question. The person notices that if you flag a question that's listed as incomplete, they're asking can they flag and then go back later on to answer if they have time left.
Yes, that's what that flag. Those markers. Let me go back to that previous page to make sure that we're all very clear about that. And I'm going to go back one page even further. Because you will see this when you do the practice exam. You'll get a chance to experience it because it will function just like the actual CCAP exam. So, and candidates will have as many times as you want to access the practice exam. And the last question on the practice exam is an essay question, so to speak. And that essay question is basically says where you might have you had any difficulties, what caused any problems for you. And I read that so that I can give an email message back to candidates who are having any difficulties maneuvering the system. But let's go back to on the practice exam and the actual CCAP exam. On the last page, when you've gone through all the exam and you click on Finish Attempt, that's when you get this summary page. That gives you a chance to figure out whether you want to go back, edit, change anything, because you have a chance then to look at all of your answers, and if you have the time. And most candidates did have the time last year on the objective question to go back and do that. So then you have the option to go back and change any answers or add any material. But once you have clicked Submit All and Finish after you've done that review, again, you're going to be asked to confirm that you do want to submit all and finish, because once you do that, you will see a review like you saw before and change anything. So it gives you that second opportunity. Used to that. By using that to the actual CCAP exam, that won't be something to make you nervous. Okay?
There's a couple other questions you want.
I missed? Yes.
What's the pass-fail rate of the exam is one, and are the questions in the practice exam the same as on the real exam, or are they just hypothetical?
Oh, no, those are the questions you see on the practice exam will not appear on your actual exam. There are questions on the exam that will be kind of and there's a question on the practice exam that relates to each section of the body. So again, we'll give you a fee. Actual CCAP exam is questions needed in the actual practical points about, but not to make sure that there aren't about the run the through the creed action. Are we okay? Looks like it.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. So let's get some more practical details by what you just past few moments. I'll note that you can return to that practice exam and do it as many times as you. This is at 5 o'clock Eastern Time on June 15th. However, you can log on to the CCAP exam only once. Take the CCAP exam, that is timed and it is attempt only. You will have that after you finish answering the question and reviewing it, and then changing your answers if time is left. But you will not be able to log said or that if you have something like something happens not when you're in the exam, back into the exam. Have back so significant or problems, we will be live on exam day, and you will not be penalized in time if that should happen. Okay, so not to be concerned if end where you lose if you log out, will you lose connection, lose the ability to sign on. Now,
hi, Jim.
yes.
We're still having a little bit of audio issues with your headset. If you want to just hold it closer to your mouth.
It's right
fading.
at it. Is it?
It's right at it.
Is it okay now?
What it is that it's fading in and out. So we can hear about every 3 words.
I don't understand that on my end.
Now you sound great.
Okay.
Okay. Well, just to remind everybody, we are recording, and you will be able to have the recording after.
I would note, by the way, Charity, that's also happening sometimes when I'm listening to you and Kevin. That frequently, but that we're having the same issue. I want to go back now to item. First of all, item number 2. Actually, from the host site's perspective, the CCAP is separate tests. Log out of one, the one that's on objective question, a 15-minute break, and log into the essay questions. The only way we could do that is to make it 2 separate exams. It's technically this one exam. It's just set up in a way for 2 sessions. Okay? So they, that were erstwhile tests, make up the whole sequence for sign-in only on the date of the exam. Sometimes it takes up to 30 seconds for that page, unlike the practice exam. Just please. Item number 4. You must open the objective questions section first. see one page, the link like we showed exam, not just the essay, first the objective question and then the essay question. You'll see them both at the same time. Make sure open the objective question section first. Then after the short break, a 15-minute break, you will open the second session. Now each session is timed. The timing is different. We did that to here where the count and where it was not so much the case. Session number 1 is timed to last 1 3/4 hours, and session number 2 on the essay, hours. Again, the example under the page navigation box that lets you know how much time is remaining. Time does run out. The exam. Those questions did not find that on the objective exam. Time, more time on the essays. Okay. And let's move to the next page. Okay. Again, this is pointing out what I just said before. When you arrive at the landing page for the CCAP exam, you will see and be instructed by the proctor to click on exam objective questions for the first session. When you go back in, you will see the option questions for the second session. All right. Some closing notes, and then I'm going to do a summary of some important points after that. We hope to have test sites determined by the latest April 15th. Actually, I'm hoping to have it done on Friday. Up that, when I sent this slide in for posting, we had 12. We now, I believe, have 15 sites. It has made a difference for persons going to CAP law. That has made a difference in what sites we have chosen. What is being required of a test site is having reliable, high-speed internet connection and availability with internet connection in an appropriate, well-lit testing room. The proctor of the exam must be a CCAP, must be familiar with the Moodle format, and an exam proctor cannot proctor an exam if there's anyone from the proctor's agency taking the exam. However, it is possible for a candidate in their own agency if the proctor has come from somewhere else. All right? If question about a proctor, you can still send that to me. All right. So, some exam do's and don'ts. First, you must go to the practice on 15th. Remember where the study guide is posted on the partnership website. Remember to register for your site after listing the site of options. And the host contact information will be connected in a message to you in the same message in response to the site you have chosen. Remember to familiarize yourself with a New Hope case study that will also be sent to you in an email message along with the exam regulations that will be sent in the message. The exam regulations repeat a lot of what I said, but with more detail. You will be able to contact the host at your location and log. And if you have any need for accommodations, please contact me immediately so that we can make appropriate accommodations for you. On the day of the exam, you sign in at your site 30 minutes before the exam starts to make sure that internet connection is okay. Note the exam. They begin simultaneously. 10 a.m. in the Eastern Time Zone and 9 a.m. in Central Time Zone. We don't have anyone in Mountain or Pacific Time this year. So note that's the exam time. And you may arrive at your site, or should arrive, a half an hour before that. You must bring to your exam laptop. That means the laptop that you used to take the practice exam. However, you will not be allowed to bring a cell phone or tablet into the exam room, and you cannot take the exam on an app on your phone or tablet. You are advised to bring a handheld calculator and pencils and pens, because in some instances you may need to calculate and make some decisions based on your calculations in your essay question. Scratch pad to make notes for yourself, but they are returned to the proctor when you're finished, and the proctor destroys them. You will receive a fresh copy of the New Hope case description at the second session when the essay questions are asked. You may not bring the marked copy of your own New Hope case description to that essay section of the exam, essay question section. However, you can make as many notes as you of the New Hope case description, but at the end of the exam session, you return that to the proctor. Okay? So we hope to see you then in this picture in Chicago in August, receiving your CCAP. And if you have further questions about the whole process, about anything raised in this webinar, that is about the CCAP process, not about the content, please send your message to me at ccapcontact@aol.com. And I remind you that I will be watching your responses and the question you to write down any concerns you had about using this format, and I will respond to them. And you see at the bottom of the page what your login page is for the practice exam, and then the actual CCAP exam. You will be reminded of that in the email message that I send you, connecting you also to the SurveyMonkey, where you make your choice for sites for the exam. Okay? My apologies to whatever we're. We'll consult with the partnership about what we need to do to clarify that.
All right.
Any further questions that you have?
Yeah, there's a couple here, Jim. Can we certify 2 laptops, i.e. one as a backup?
You can certify 2. Yes, you can certify 2. That means you've accessed it through either one. But here's the point. That's a good question in this regard. A couple of things that we've learned about, and detailed exam regulations that I will be sending you. It's a lot more detail. Some of you, with your laptops, if they have been configured by your at your agency, they sometimes have what's called a group policy order programmed into agency-owned laptops that log the user off the computer if there's no keystrokes or mouse usage, over a specified period of time. Use of the CCAP online exam, but it might. So we really strongly advise you to consult with your IT person at your agency if there's any such group policy order for your computer. Okay.
How do we get our laptop certified?
Laptop certified, all that means is that you have accessed that laptop. That's all that means. It's up to you. That's you. You're certifying it by having said that that's the laptop that you used. We presume that when you get to the actual exam site that that's the laptop you're using, because there is no appeal to your laptop not function. A reason to somehow appeal a score or anything like that. So that's the reason for certifying it. Someone, I saw another question pop up, but Cardenas had a question. It disappeared.
And what is the pass rate for the exam from previous years?
Oh, that's what the question. The pass rate for the exam is never been less than 85% of person. It's usually from the high 80 to the low mid 90%. That is in the past 25 years of the exam being administered. Most persons taking the exam get very nervous about it and think afterwards. Many persons feel, oh, I didn't pass it. Well, you would be in the minority, definitely, if you did not. That said, understand one of the reasons that CCAP lasts for 3 years is to give candidates multiple options to qualify on each submission, including to pass the CCAP exam. So, and it is extremely rare that anyone who has not passed the CCAP exam second attempt. It has happened, but it's quite rare. But back to the main point, between 85 and 90 pass the exam every.
Hey, to be clear, we will receive our username and passcode in a memo from Jim.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question, please?
To be clear, we will receive our username and passcode in a memo from Jim.
Yes, you all received a username and a passcode in the email message that told you about qualifying to take the exam. If you can't locate that, simply send me a message at ccapcontact@aol.com and I will resend so that you have that user ID and passcode. And a reminder that the user ID and the passcode are exactly the same 5 digits. That is your unique identifier for your candidacy. Okay?
When will scores for the CDF and ESP come out? I received the pass email, but I would like to know actual scores.
We do not, if that's someone who's passed the, who has qualified, we do not send out scores for the CDF and ESP. There are some technical reasons for that. Let me give one of the most important ones. The executive skills portfolios, the candidate data forms were due on January 23rd. The portfolio was due just 3 weeks, a little bit more than 3 weeks after that. The actual scoring of the two process overlap. We got an executive skills portfolio for a candidate whose candidate data form had not yet been scored. We already know from the executive skills portfolio how much they need to earn on the candidate data form, And once they got to that point, there was no further counting. It was superfluous. That's one of the reasons we don't send scores. That said, for candidates who did not achieve a qualifying score, there may be some of you on this email message. You get a message that tells you what your score was and where you fell short. And candidates who did fall short of receiving a qualifying score can ask for a more discrete breakdown of scores. And we can send back a more detailed report, statistical report, not a report of comments from the evaluators about why they gave particular scores. We can only send back scores in each discrete category that the evaluators used to determine a final score. And those reports are available to assist candidates who didn't qualify so that they can improve their scores in the following year. But we don't send final scores for those who have qualified for a couple statistical reasons. The most important one is the one I mentioned a few moments ago.
Are Mac laptops recommended or discouraged? Are they compatible?
That's a question I think you're going to need to ask an IT person. I'm not that schooled in it. My expectation is that they probably are, but please check that out with an IT person, and you'll find out when you access the practice exam.
Is a Microsoft Surface defined as a tablet or a laptop?
I'm quiet because I'm thinking about it, because that's almost a hybrid, isn't it? I think it's going to be considered a laptop. The person who asked that question, please send me an email message, or anyone else who's considering using a Surface, and I will get a final determination for you within a few days. I'm right now about 75% sure that it's going to be okay, but I want to double check with my team on that, on the exam committee. Okay?
Okay, I think you alluded to this, but I'll ask it anyway. Is there usually a test site in each state of the accepted candidates?
Same problem, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Is there usually a test site in each state of the accepted candidates?
Completely.
Okay, can you hear me at all?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay. The question is there usually a test site in each state of the accepted candidates?
Is a user, I'm not following the question.
No, is there usually a test site in each state?
Oh, a test site.
For the accepted candidates?
There's not usually a test site in each. We try to get a test site in each state where there is a candidate. It's not quite. Give an example. We're working on establishing a test site in far western Missouri to accommodate our candidates from eastern Kansas. That's an example of that. And if there are candidates, in some instances, there are candidates who are closer. I'll give another example. One of our test sites is I'm about 90% sure, and I'm finalizing that now, so I don't want to be held to this until I have that finalized with our proctor in Columbia, South Carolina. But that site is closer to Augusta, Georgia, than any other site we could choose in Georgia. That's an example of where we might cross state lines in accommodating candidacies. Also, fortunately, there are some states where all the candidates from that state are going to CAP law, so we didn't have to choose a site, and that happened in Michigan and Oklahoma. So all our candidates from both of those states are going to CAP law. So I'm still working on that and doing my best to accommodate our candidates as much as possible. And it is still possible, though, in some instances, if we really have to do it, we can have a CCAP exam administered in a candidate's home agency if the home agency has adequate internet connectivity, IT support, and if the agency is able to pay for a CCAP proctor to be flown in to proctor the exam there. Wow. That does happen on rare occasions. We discourage it. But if there are reasons that that has to occur, which, for example, may have something to do with someone's health condition, we will work to make that happen. It's difficult, but we make it work.
Okay, that's the end of the questions from this end.
Okay. Well, then I want to thank everyone for your patience with this whole process, and I look forward to the opportunity to, my first chance to ever meet any of you face-to-face is oftentimes at the annual convention when I get to congratulate you on becoming a CCAP. I look forward to that opportunity in Chicago. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jim. Thanks. That concludes today's webinar. As I mentioned earlier, it is being recorded, so we will send it out to everybody who signed up ahead of time, and it will be posted on our website as well. It may take a day or two for the recording to be available, but we will get it out as soon as we can. Thanks again to everyone. That concludes today's session.